to the Russell Scott Show.
Anthony J. Hilder, welcome to the program.
Well, first of all, I'm very glad to be here in the West Coast. The West Coast truth is the East Coast lies.
The New York Times. Yeah.
The New York Times is total lies.
Anthony J. Hilder is the world's first filmmaker to expose the Illuminati-CFR connections on record and film more than 45 years ago. Anthony has been the host of the Millennium 2000 TV series, as well as the popular syndicated radio show Radio Free World. He is the originator of Radio Free America and the author of the Free World Manifesto. He has been a guest on countless radio and TV programs and appeared on Season 3, Episode 4 of Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. He pulls no punches. He tells it like it is. Anthony, tell me what got you started making films, conducting interviews, sticking your nose where it didn't belong, and being a general pain in the ass for the government.
Well, like all of those of us in the industry, and as in the truth industry, we start doing that which has not been done. And one generally thinks that the truth is coming out every day. It isn't. It has not come out every day. The truth is new. It's fresh. It's original. It's hidden. Like this last year, about this time, we attended the Bohemian Grove. We would think that you would hear about the Bohemian Grove for a long time. It has not been unearthed. There were people there that talked to me about committing murders, having participated in murders, and one would think that would be something new, like the Zimmerman case. No, it was not new. It was old. It was an old story. But the old story has come to light, and we're involved in a revelation of a new kind. The truth has not been told for years and years and years. And it has to be. What I'm calling for is an unearthing of these old stories which are now somewhat new, because the story has not been told. If you take a look at our film, The Illuminati, we take a look at the same story being told over and over and over, but it's a new twist. It's a new coat of paint. Last year, about this time, I had a stroke, but it did not cover the truth that we're going to be talking about today on West Coast Truth. We were talking about the individual oligarchy, the evilarchy, that pretends to be giving us the truth. The Illuminati created and then dropped the atomic bomb on the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Most people don't know that the atomic bomb was created at the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, and this weekend is the beginning of this year's Bohemian Grove meeting, right? This Saturday.
Yes.
And then it goes on for 2 weeks. It's in Monte Rio, California, some small town. What do people discuss there? As you say, they came up with the idea of bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki there.
They don't come up with any information at all about that. I have never once talked to any individual who's talked about the atomic bomb's creation by a small group of people who diligently and with malice aforethought discussed the dropping of the atomic bomb on an innocent population, because the Japanese were dragged into the war. You say, well, my God, they weren't dragged in. They dropped the bombs on Pearl Harbor. Well, yes, but before Pearl Harbor came, the Japanese were provoked. You have to understand the cause of the war. Wars are created. The results of those wars caused the mass murder of tens of thousands of people. I used to go with a girl whose the victim of the atomic bomb. And I wrote a book called The Warlords of Washington with Colonel Curtis Bedell. We talked about the bomb being dropped essentially after the war was over, after the Japanese had offered conditional surrender. And the group, which was based in Washington with the direction of Harry Truman, pulled that thing off. Colonel Toshikano, a friend of mine, who later became a friend, had discussed the fact that he was in Hiroshima at the same time the bomb was dropped. You people said, well, my God, what did he do to create it? I mean, what did he do to recover from it? He was in Hiroshima. Hiroshima is a town with that is essentially surrounded by an elevated platform. It was not a military town. It was not a military target. One day he was doing his thing. That was the day that he saw some planes go by, as they generally did. They flew over and dropped something out of one plane. It was silver. It looked like a silver object. That was the first atomic bomb. See, they would drop smaller items which were propaganda, essentially warning the people that they had better surrender, etc.
We've heard cases of them dropping food packages along with bombs in certain conflicts. There's an element of cruelty to their actions, right?
Well, the Japanese had offered essentially surrender. They only wanted Hirohito to remain as emperor, which was a normal thing.
So how did your friend survive the bomb?
Well, he saw this, essentially a parachute go down, and this was not to him unusual. They were doing things like that at the time. It wasn't immediately upon them, but my friend was completely taken by surprise. Like I say, Hiroshima was not a military target. They would fly over Hiroshima, and then they would cut up north to the military town. So he did not expect anything at all of this nature to be dropped. The Illuminati, the individuals who planned this disaster to happen, they knew that the Japanese had offered conditional surrender. General Wally Guy, a friend of mine, talked to me about information that he had that essentially said the Japanese were willing to surrender. He didn't mention the atomic bomb. General Wily Guy was under the direction of another naval military commander who knew what was happening. This is essentially about 2 to 3 weeks before they dropped the bomb. When I say they, the U.S. military directed first attack upon the innocent civilians of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Because when the war was over, the Japanese wanted to surrender. It was over. In dropping the atomic bomb upon the civilian population of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, caused the death, destruction of a massive amount of people. It was uncalled for. It was unheard of in the annals of human history. No men had done so much to hurt so many as the group of people who have gathered this coming weekend to meet in the Bohemian Grove.
Whether it be dropping bombs on people, waging wars, I mean, there must be a financial reason at the root of it. Or do you believe there's something more sinister to it?
They want to rule the world. Major Toshikana was involved in the military in Japan he was involved in the first dropping of the atomic bomb. He described the event as he looked up, saw this silver object coming down, and it didn't go off immediately. It came down and into flight. He looked out of one position in the town. There was a railroad which used to go around the city, and it was elevated. And he was looking out at a direction where there's just some guy was walking behind, like you take a look at the Rose Bowl, or there's like a bridge, more almost, that elevated this town. And he looked out, this fellow was walking near the underpass. In one moment, this is a human being. Moments later, the image of the man had disappeared. He was burnt like a potato chip. The people of Japan were literally fried to death. The image that he saw of a man had changed, in essence, like a crispy critter. My girlfriend, who had suffered through the attack, was taking blood on a regular basis. This is years after the war was over. Her blood was taken, and her blood was refreshed, and the attack didn't end with the dropping of the bomb. The attack continued for all of those people who had suffered the effects of the bomb. Mm-hmm. Toshikana was involved with the River Kwai. You may remember the film.
It's one of my favorite movies, yeah, Bridge Over the River Kwai, absolutely.
Yes. One of the leading actors in that lived just about 4 blocks from here.
Was it Alec Guinness?
No, it was, well, Alex Guinness was involved in it, but yeah. If you can picture a group of people who, knowing that the Japanese had offered conditions of surrender, General Curtis LeMay was in high post at the time the war came to an end. General Curtis LeMay was pretty much a good guy, but I'm sure that he had no idea that the death and destruction would happen as it did, with an atomic bomb being dropped on Hiroshima. Hiroshima was not a military target. Was not a military target. The bomb came down on a non-military target. There's old people, not Japanese military. Nagasaki was not a military target. Tokyo was a military target. I've only been to Tokyo once, but I conveyed a message to the Japanese that this war was conducted by the U.S. military, by the U.S. evilarchy, that had allowed the conflict to continue and kill these people. Tens of thousands of people died when the war was essentially over.
So my question would be why? Why would they do that?
Because I can talk about the evilarchy. This evilarchy is a satanically based group of people who will do whatever is necessary to create chaos.
If these people believe in Satan, Lucifer, they must believe in God too.
I think that they have different priorities. They believe, like General Albert Pike, that Satan is God. People at the Grove, one fellow talked about, he's on one of our films, talking about how he was with a group of people out of San Francisco who murdered one of these young men, a stranger who had fallen under the radar of the Bohemian Grove. The Bohemian Grove has a club in San Francisco called the Bohemian Club. And they have, in this meeting every year, a party of sorts. It wouldn't be a party to you, but it would be a party to them. Essentially a hell-raising party.
Bohemian Grove differs from the Bilderberg meeting in the sense that the Bilderberg meeting is an actual office meeting, so to speak, and this is the after party.
Well, as I describe it, the Bohemian Club and the Bilderbergers are mixed up. If you take a look at my film, if you go to Anthony J. Hilder, we actually have a film done on it. We'll talk about these events that change nature, that change the course of life, or life on Earth as we know it. The Bohemian Club has engaged in things that are unearthly. I'm calling for not only an exposure of the Bohemian Club, but a revelation that will reveal the activities of this satanic group for years upon years upon years. In our series of films, of course I did the unearthing of the project which resulted in the worst disaster in the history of the United States, the continental United States. And that was the dropping of the bombs on New York City. This was done deliberately and by design.
What bombs that dropped on New York City?
On 9/11. The greatest lie ever told, ever sold.
So you don't think that the buildings came down because of the planes?
No. This was mass murder. If we take a look at the film that I did of this, 9/11, the greatest lie ever sold. And it was sold just like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were sold to the American people. We were sold, the American people were sold on the raid at Pearl Harbor. If the Japanese declared war upon the American people, you have to conclude that there was a reason. There was a reason, my friend. There was a reason. The American people had cut off the oil. It had strangled the Japanese to a point where they had no choice. They had no choice but declare war against the American people. You say, well, I'm justifying the war. No, but the Japanese felt that they were justified in the attack. And I've been there not too far back, where you take a look at the oil slicks coming up from the bottom of the ocean. They are still coming up from the bottom of the ocean underneath Pearl Harbor. When I take a look at the disasters that resulted from the atomic bomb, this is the first time that a group of innocent people, you say, well, surely I wouldn't consider the Japanese innocent, because they sure as hell weren't innocent. They deliberately and with malice aforethought declared war, but there was a reason. Wars like bridges are engineered. They are deliberately done with malice aforethought. They are by design. In my book called The Warlords of Washington, I wrote a story. And a friend of mine, Colonel Curtis B. Dow, and I did this book. Colonel Curtis B. Dow was Roosevelt's former son-in-law. He was married to Anna Roosevelt. If you take a look at the book, our names were upon that piece. We talk about the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Certainly, he was aware that his father-in-law, Franklin Delano, was aware of the destruction and the mayhem and murder that he was involved in. And it had to be by design. You take a look at his vice president, Truman. They used to call him Whorehouse Harry. Oh yeah, Harry Truman operated a whorehouse.
The fuck stops here.
Can you imagine the American people putting their faith and confidence in a man who would sell young girls virtue for money?
It's not something you bring up in your campaign speeches.
Not really. Not really. I had a Japanese fellow come over here from Japan. He was based in Gotemba City, which is at the bottom of the mountain, at the base of which is a volcano. When you take a look at a postcard, you see Mount Fuji. Gotemba City is the bottom, and one of the fellows who was involved in the expose of what the Bohemian Grove was able to carry on was a military officer who eventually committed suicide.
I just want to throw in there that Hunter S. Thompson has been reported to have been at Bohemian Grove, and he committed suicide as well. I'm curious if that's a common theme.
Well, I don't know whether it was exactly, and whether Hunter Thompson committed suicide because he was a participant in the Grove. But we have had former presidents who've been involved in this conspiracy, this evilarchy. You might say, well, God help them if they were, but they have been. I have been in the company of a former president who was involved in the Grove in a partial way. This is Richard Nixon.
He didn't have very good things to say about it, from what I have seen on YouTube.
No, he did not.
And I'll just quote him, or paraphrase him. He referred to it as some of the most faggoty shit he'd ever seen.
Oh, yes. These guys are not all faggots, but they consider themselves to be certainly amongst the upper rung of the satanic society that allows this evil amongst men to transpire.
On that thread, we'll try not to use the word faggot. I was just quoting Nixon, of course. There is, from what we hear, homosexual acts happening. In fact, women are not allowed there. It's an all-men's club. Do you think this is how they create a camaraderie, a brotherhood amongst them, that, you know, we're all a part of the same thing, and we'll do business together, and we'll have sex together, and we aren't going to talk about it outside of this group because we have something on everybody? Is this sort of a way of initiating everyone into the program?
Do I think that they're all homosexuals?
No, I wouldn't even say that any of them necessarily are, or even any great or abnormal percentage. I'm just suggesting that they're taking part in homosexual acts, creating a tighter group.
Well, homosexuals have a unique fraternity, you know. Are they all doing that? No. Are the Henry Kissingers of the world doing that? It's like Richard Nixon said, the most faggoty group of, what does he say?
I don't have the exact quote here, but we're pretty much got it, yeah.
Let's say that they're not my club. They're not my fraternity.
So you're not a member of Bohemian Grove?
No. Do I intend to be?
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. But you've been at the gates of Bohemian Grove and you've been protesting it. How is it that they allow you to get so close and to release these videos? You know, why is it that they haven't gotten to you yet?
You may or may not know I have been shot. Bill Cooper and I were basically under in the same team that...
You knew Bill Cooper?
Sure. We were friends. I was going to go over the Bill and my girlfriend, and I spent some time with him down in Arizona. We discussed a lot of these things that aren't discussed. Bill was considered so lethal that the sheriff's department came up and murdered him. And I say murdered him.
Was the Apache County? I can't remember now.
Right. I attended Bill's funeral. They shot him, I believe, 6 or 7 times in the back and 12 times in the front, in an attempt to save himself when he found out that they were involved with the sheriff's department. He put the pickup truck in reverse and moved back and up on the hill. There was a meeting of the sheriffs. They were. It was an attempt to draw him out, and they did. They were playing some sort of hip hop music and loudly and
like the kind of stuff they were doing at Waco.
Yeah, Waco was done to kill those people. You take a look at the history of the event. The press will tell you, or the New York Times will tell you that that was an ambush. The Davidians ambushed the U.S. military, and if you believe that, you believe anything.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's get back to the Bill Cooper. I apologize that I went off there. They were playing loud music. They were trying to draw him out.
And they got him out, and there was some sort of tarp or something that covered the truck. Anyhow, Bill shoved it into reverse. He went between a couple of cars. He came, the hill was, at the bottom of the hill. They had just come up the road, and he thought there was a bunch of hippies and just, having a drunken party or something. And he was going to have them cut out the racket. He got back up to the house. He lived on this plateaued house that gave a view of the valley. And they suckered him. I don't know how many sheriffs there were, 13 or 14 or 15, but they suckered him in. He would always carry a gun.
He had also threatened the police, from what I understand, too.
What?
Well, the reports are that he had threatened the police and that had told them if they had come around his property that he'd shoot them. There were reports that he was drunk and he was firing his gun off.
I don't consider that a threat. He was not a threat to the police. But he issued a threat to the police that if they did come up on his property and to try to attack him, as they did come up on his property. Not only did they threaten to kill him, they did kill him. They shot him in the back and through the chest repeatedly. When he talked to me, one of the last times that he talked to me, he talked about, they're coming to kill me. Anthony, they're coming to kill me. I already knew that he was under attack, and I suspected that he would be under attack physically, as he was. When I was shot, 4 men were involved in the shooting. I was in the company of 4 black men who had attempted to shoot me, and I figured the odds were against me at that time. I took a run for it like Bill took a run for it. One of the fellows came running up the stairs, and I took him out physically. I certainly would not consider myself a fighter or a desperado or any man involved with martial arts, but I took the fellow down, and he was followed by a couple of others. I was trying to knock him down or knock him out, or if I had the opportunity to kill him, I would have killed him. But I didn't get the opportunity. I was wearing a Rhodesian T-shirt, a T-shirt which would be supportive of the Rhodesian movement. I had lived in Africa for a period of time. It wasn't because they were black. When you're pursued by 4 fellows and you're literally having to fight for your life, like what Zimmerman was reportedly to have done in defending his life. He was, I believe he was fighting for his life. I don't knock it. I don't deny it. In my case, I was hit right below the heart.
Through the back or the chest?
Through the chest.
How did you survive?
By the blessing of God. The doctor asked me why I was refusing morphine. when you're shot on the streets of Los Angeles by 4 men, and you survive, you're cautious. You're also cautious of the hospital you were brought to. I was brought to Cedars-Sinai Hospital. Bill Cooper talked about my shooting and said that I was lucky to be alive. Did I think it was deliberate and by design? Obviously it was deliberate and by design. When they brought me to Cedars-Sinai, that's one of the most prestigious hospitals in Hollywood, in the West Coast.
Yeah, we've all heard of it.
In the world. They would bring Elizabeth Taylor there, and a lot of the major Hollywood personalities. And I'm asking the question, as I would be expected to ask, what are my chances? Just play it honest with me. I was laying nude on the table, which I was very uncomfortable with. I said, get the women out of the room. He said, well, look, these women are used to naked men. I said, get the women out of the room. I'm not used to men being naked in front of women. I said, what are the chances of my survival if I was hit in the fashion that I was hit and where I was hit? I said, just be honest. Give it to me, frank. I said, what are my odds? And he stood there for a moment, didn't want to answer me. He said 100 to 1. I said 100 to 1. I said for or against. He said against. Being a doctor, although that was Cedars-Sinai Hospital, the emergency room, regardless of the conditions, I felt in some way jeopardized, obviously. So I consented to the operation. And as I was going down on the gurney, being carted through the corridors of the hospital, he said, well, how are you politically?
It's a strange question.
Well, obviously I was not on the same side politically.
You're on the gurney and the doctor asks you, how are you politically?
That's right.
That's crazy. Make peace with your president? I mean, I've never heard of this before. Whatever side you're on, Doc, just let's be friends for now.
I said, I'm a libertarian. And fortunately, this guy said, so am I. And that was certainly a blessing. And like some of the men who've been shot, they go into a relapse, or they feel that they're between heaven and purgatory. But I was very calm in those moments. I felt a peace, a warmth, a comfort. I did not think about life or death, or the moments before I was shot, nor did I feel anger. I was just going from one place to another. Bill Cooper was very gracious with me. In discussion, he was very laudatory, or I guess, I don't know the word for it, when one doesn't know whether your companion or compadre or brother in the cause is going to be live or die. He gave me his support. I am very grateful to my friend Bill Cooper, who gave his life for this country. Bill only had one leg, When he went running literally for his life, it was to save his presence on this planet Earth. He was married to an Oriental girl. His daughter wanted to see him live, but her daddy's life was taken from him.
I remember some of those shows, they would start with him talking to his daughter and telling her, honey, I'm going to be back in an hour, I have to do my show, and I'll tell you a good night story when I get back. She was quite often a part of his show in that way.
But he's a brave man.
Yeah, the most dangerous man in America, according to Bill Clinton at that time.
Well, I'm proud to have him as my friend. He still is.
You've been doing this a long time, Anthony. Like I said earlier in the show, you were on record talking about this stuff, the Illuminati, as you call it, back in the 60s. I don't know what to call this, the truth movement or whatever we want to call it, but how has it changed over the years from where it was and where it is today?
You might think, what reason could I possibly have to be encouraged?
Sure, yeah, I do wonder that.
Well, it's guys like you who do shows like this, who encourage me to keep on. And for any of you listening, hearing this show, you're not to give up hope. There is more than just hope. And my friend, you're doing a radio show that will potentially reach thousands. You transfer the hope from one individual to another. And I know, as I knew at the time the doctor looked down at me and said, the truth, I said, what are the odds? In telling me the truth and asking for the first conclusion, what are the odds? 100 to 1. I have to think that the odds are better than earthly imagined, or imagined here on earth. The odds are that we're going to not only live, but survive. I did a show with a friend of mine, a radio show, and eventually a television show about thrival. Yes, we are to thrive, not just survive. My friend was the recipient of a tape made by me about thrival. He was planning, like Bill was planning, not only to survive, but to thrive. And I am of the belief that we have gone beyond the period of time when it's just survival. We've gone to the period of time when we have an opportunity to not only to survive, but to thrive.
Yeah, that's an inspiring message. What's the best way, do you think, for society to get to that point? One thing I'm certain that neither you or I want to promote is violence, and that certainly won't end well. So I would never say we need to rally together and stage some sort of a revolution against the government. I wouldn't say that, but so how do we go around that and still get the same result?
Life is about thriving. Life is about doing battle with the evilarchy. Life is not to be foolishly spent conducting idle challenges. Life is meant to be eternal. Life is not finite. It's infinite. It goes on. My guide is Jesus Christ. He talked about life eternal, infinite, going on, and proving it. It doesn't end. It didn't end for Bill Cooper. I looked in the truck, his pickup truck. This is a short time after he'd been shot. And there was his dog laid to rest, not comfortably, but in the back of the truck. As they had shot it, or shot him, they shot his dog. Now, why did they have to do that? But they did. And they shall.
So this isn't going to end anytime soon, in your opinion, either. This is a continuous battle.
Well, I'm assuming that you're in this fight forever, that it did not start here, nor will it end here. But we have to condition ourselves, prepare ourselves to win, or prepare for ourselves to die. We have to prepare to win or prepare to die. And that stands for all of us. We're in the battle of making films that will last. In the film category, we have various projects talking about the Grove. I did one film while in England about the individuals, not from the Bohemian Grove, but from a group which existed before the Grove. Part of our forefathers in Benjamin Franklin, who are part of the group to bring about a new world order. Dashwood and Franklin were rumored to have sexual misconduct with young men and women who were engaged in sexual activities like Richard Nixon talked of at the Grove. You quoted them as saying that they were the most faggoty group. I don't think that we can allow them to continue without being sued for sexual misconduct and physical misconduct.
It goes farther than that, than just simply misconduct and inappropriate actions. We're talking about crimes against humanity here. I mean, we've heard stories of people in the political powers that be, purchasing children from orphanages, and they get passed around to the different politicians, judges, congressmen, etc. There seems to be an incredible amount of pedophilia with the elites. I don't know if that's because all their basic needs in life are taken care of and only the most hedonistic acts will serve them, but again, it goes beyond just misconduct. If what we're talking about here is true, if these people are in fact running pedophile rings and whatnot, why wait for it? Get a group together and march on into Bohemian Grove, seize everything, and, I don't know what to say.
Well, a friend of mine who died just this last year, Ted Gunderson, talked about the existence of the evil archy, and I attended the conference this last year at the conference which exposed these bastards. Ted Gunderson and I were attacked by, Ted Gunderson and Alex Jones, and yours truly, was attacked by Leonard Horowitz and his lady friend. They were attempting to link us in some way with the people who were involved with the Grove. I'm trying to think for a moment of the circumstances which brought that about. But Colonel Aquino was involved with Satanism, was involved with a military operation which recognized Satanism as a religion. That religion is existent today at the Grove. This goes back to the Hellfire Club, which I did a film on, which talked about Dashwood and Franklin. But Russell Scott is a friend because of your association. We're all associated with the truthers, both East and West. The best, I would hope, in fact I pray, that we gain the strength to continue in this quest for freedom, liberty, and life. This is not a fight that is finite, it's infinite. That's why we must do that which has not been done.
You've made some of these incredible films, and they're all over YouTube. And I've done this show, and Alex has his show, but yet these false flags still happen. The drones are coming. The wars are escalating. Sure, we've stepped up our game, but the government, they're 5 steps ahead of us, of course. Again, it's not about surviving, it's about thriving. And by the way, I also noticed that a lot of us in the truther movement are against each other. This morning I was on Peter Kling's Facebook page, a good friend of mine, and thank you, Peter, for guest hosting last month. And there was a group that was talking about Judy Wood and the 9/11. And then there's another group saying, it wasn't like that, and they, actually it was more like what Richard Gage is saying. And so there's an infighting amongst us truthers. We need to somehow rally above that, right?
Well, we all envision truth in different ways. Ted Gunderson, he is a friend of mine, whether alive or dead. Ted, my friend, is very much with us. I'm sitting on a couch in Santa Monica. I could reach my hand over and touch him right this moment. We did a couple of films, 911, The Greatest Lie Ever Sold. We did, I guess, 3 films. The one that was the last was done just blocks from here. Ted was living with cancer, of which he later died from, but he had a brush with arsenic poison. One's body turns black when hit with this stuff, and a doctor friend of mine described the symptoms of the poisoning. I don't know where in this evolution of life that we suddenly become aware that we have eternal life, that we move on from death to eternity. But I know that somewhere along this pathway, we have the opportunity to move on, to progress, not regress, progress. And I am thankful for that. To Christ, who's offered us the opportunity to move on from death. Like I say, life is not finite, it's infinite. We live on. We carry on, and I know that some of the individuals who've carried on the course of exposure of the Illuminati from Myron Fagan to the present time has been instrumental in carrying on the present exposure. And the present exposure, this exposure, is a carry-on. I haven't given up, and I hope that your listeners will carry on when the going gets tough and rough. And like in the poem by Rudyard Kipling, which talks about not only the survival, but the thrival of mankind. It's almost like the poetry I used to read as a kid in prep school, when we would quote from the great individuals who have explored life and death and infinity. These songs, these poems, these works of art, which we create, have the opportunity to carry on without us. I'm thinking that we have been given such a blessing, such a course in which to follow by Ted Gunderson, by Alex Jones, by Bill Coover. Can we continue this fight forever? The job, to me, is not done. This is another chapter in the book of life and the battle eternal. I thank you, Russell, for giving me the opportunity to speak, to reflect, to share my soul.
And like you say, these poems, the stories, the films, they go on forever. Your YouTube channel, Anthony J. Hilder, has an incredible amount of videos. You've done several films. So there's a lot out there for the audience to take in. What's the website?
freeworldalliance.com, aircrap.org, Free World Filmworks. And we're struggling on a day-to-day basis to meet the financial commitments for the site. I introduced to the European market Paradigm Shift TV, and we carried on the better part of a year. And we need to get, we needed to pay off our commitments to storage. But our goals should not be to store the material, but to make the material in the tapes, the projects, continue. We had some news just a couple of days ago that we had hit 1,100,000 or so people, with a woman who had done one of our shows. Bill Coons had recorded it. But we had reached the million mark insofar as recognition amongst our audience, and we have to continue week in and week out to make the thing happen. Are you in, by the way, Vancouver directly?
I'm in Vancouver. I'm downtown Vancouver right now.
I'm half Canadian.
Which half?
Father's side, from Winnipeg. I'm hoping, praying that we can meet the next commitment for our tapes, not only to survive, but to thrive.
Anthony, I know you're sending me emails anyhow, but continue to send them on over, and we'll share those with our audience. And, it's my personal recommendation. The Anthony J. Hilder videos are must-watch videos for anybody who's interested in these things. And share them, get them out there.
Well, I'm privileged to having had the opportunity to talk to Russell Scott.
Anthony J. Hilder, it's been an honor. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on the program today.
Thank you, my friend, not only for being one of us, not only for being amongst us, but for being one of the spearheads in the movement. I thank you so much, my friend.